It was time. When I added solar to my travel trailer about 7 years ago, I really wanted to use lithium batteries, but the cost factor was enormous. A 100 amp hour lithium battery 7 years ago was roughly $1,000, sometimes a little bit more, unless you built them yourself, and I just really didn't want to get into a DIY project with batteries. So I decided to go AGM, absorbed glass mat, which is one step up from lead acid batteries, which are wet cells. These batteries at the time were, and even today, 7 years later, are $180, $190 a piece. I expected to get 2 or 3 years out of them, and I figured at that point in time I would switch up to lithium. As it turns out, these batteries just wouldn't die. In fact, the only reason why I changed them out this year is because I found a great deal on some Renogy lithium batteries. These batteries are still showing, after being fully charged and sitting there for 3 or 4 days, they're still at 12.7 volts. They're still perfectly fine. It's blowing my mind how well they've actually performed. They've never let me down in a boondocking situation where I've stayed out in Quartzsite, Arizona for weeks at a time, and using my 420 watts of solar on the roof has kept me with enough electricity to run computers and cell phones and my coffee maker, my toaster, heater, you name it. So they actually worked out well. They reach 105 amp hours, so that gave me a total of 210 amp hours. But with lead acid or AGM batteries, you can only use 50% of the available current. So I really only had 100 amp hours of use. So Renogy just ran a great sale. These batteries here that I've replaced the AGM with usually cost around $700 a piece. They had them on sale for $500 each. And then I found a coupon that if you sign up for their email listing, you get another 50 bucks off, so $950 delivered. I got 2 100 amp hour lithium batteries. Now these are pretty neat batteries. First of all, they have Bluetooth, so I can open an app on my phone and I can see exactly what these batteries are doing. They are lithium. They charge up amazingly fast. Where those AGM batteries would take all day to come back to full charge, these come back to full charge in about an hour and a half. And that's with morning sun. By 10 o'clock in the morning, they're fully charged after being depleted down to about 60%. Absolutely amazing to me. I also upgraded and took out cheap Chinese circuit breakers that I had been using for protection of the whole system. I've seen a few of them failing here and there, or just crying wolf, opening up when they shouldn't. So I replaced them all with very high current fuses. Don't really need switchable circuit breakers. You're not shutting things off that often. And if you do, you just remove the fuse and it's the same thing. I also replaced the full deadman, I call it a deadman switch, which shuts all current off going to the trailer. Should be some kind of catastrophic failure or whatever. I can just run outside here and flip this switch down and shut it off. This might be a review for some of you that saw previous posts, but this is also something that I added. I added another solar controller out here, and I put it in a Pelican case, completely waterproof. This does 2 things. One, I have a 200 watt solar panel that I can deploy outside with a long cord to get, if I happen to be parked under a canopy in the woods, leaves, whatever, I can have the solar panel out in the sun. Also, I have the ability to plug this into a DC to DC converter off my tow vehicle, which will dump 40 amps into these batteries while I'm driving. And it also protects my smart alternator in the truck. Gone are the days where you could just simply plug in your trailer into your truck and it would get charged off the 7-pin plug. That 7-pin plug on a really good day might give you 4 or 5 amps. That's definitely not enough with the amount of electricity we need in modern society with our laptops and iPads and the kids playing video games and whatnot. So this does two things. It allows me to run auxiliary solar panels, and it also allows me to plug into the truck and charge the batteries through the truck's alternator. So that was a nice feature. So let's just quickly show you what I had to do to move to lithium. It was more than just replacing the batteries. First of all, in the coach, or in the trailer, we have this device that I had to remove. This is the 120 volt to 12 volt converter charger. So it does two things. One, it allows you to use 120 volts if you're plugged into a regular outlet like at a campground or wherever. And it also converts 120 volts down to 12 volts to run all the 12 volt stuff in the camper. And it also sends, in this case, 55 amps of charging current over to the batteries. The problem is it is set up to charge lead acid AGM type batteries. It has what's called a 4-stage charging system. So it starts out at one voltage, goes to another, and then it goes to this rest voltage, which constantly keeps a little bit of voltage going into the batteries. Lithium batteries don't want that. They simply want 2 stages. They want a massive amount of current right at the beginning, and then they just want it to taper off and then just sit there at about 13.5 volts, plus or minus. So this had to go. Some folks are using these to charge their lithium batteries. I think they're taking a chance. They could damage their batteries if they're not careful. You can run this unit manually with this little thing called a wizard. And this little IntelliPower wizard will allow you to change the slope of the charge cycle, but you better be aware of it and you better be on top of it because you don't want to damage $1,000 worth of batteries. So that had to go. That device lives right over here in this panel. I don't know if you can see this because it's pretty dark. But anyways, this is the circuit board panel that has all of the breakers for the circuit board, for the trailer, both 12 volt and 120 volt breakers. So that device replaced the unit that was in this panel. The other thing that had to change was the solar charger. I've got 3 large solar panels up on the roof, 420 watts. And this was the first solar charge controller that I installed. It's a Bogart Engineering, and back in the day, 7 years ago, this thing was absolute state-of-the-art. But it's pulse width modulated, PWM. And that's fine for a smaller system, maybe 100 watts on the roof, maybe 1 battery. It's going to work fine. It's just not up to date with what we're doing today with MPP type solar charge controllers, which are much more sophisticated, really get much more energy out of the sun and out of your solar panels. The big advantage to this system, though, was this thing called the trimetric. Back in the day, the trimetric was the best way of monitoring your batteries. It told you all kinds of information. Today, there's other devices that I think give you more information, and more information that you can actually use. This thing told you a lot of stuff. A lot of it was useless as far as I was concerned. That thing back there is called a shunt. All of the electricity in the trailer goes through this shunt, and that shunt allows this trimetric to read input current and output current. How much electricity are you putting into the batteries, and how much electricity are you taking out of your batteries? So shunt-based systems are the only way to monitor batteries, especially with lithium. Most monitoring systems that you're going to find in travel trailers look at voltage. Well, regular AGM lead-acid batteries, sure, the voltage starts out high and goes down rapidly as you use it. That's not the case with lithium. Lithium starts out high and stays high right to the end, then they die. So they're not reading voltage properly, so you can't see the life or the state of charge, SOC, of your batteries using voltage. You have to use amperage, amperage in, amperage out, current in, current out. So you have to have a system that's using a shunt. There are many of them available. So anyways, all of this stuff had to come out. And this is where the trimetrics lived. It lived in this little panel that I had built back when I did this whole setup. But the Trimetrics came out, and a Renogy, see if we can cut this glare down a little bit, this Renogy panel went in. This panel is really neat. It tells you exactly what you need to know. Battery voltage, how many amps you're using, or how many amps you're putting into the battery, what the voltage of the wattage of the battery is. But more importantly, it tells you your state of charge in percentage and in amp hours. So I've got 200 amp hours of current available to me. And with lithium batteries, you can use almost all of it. You can take it right down to about 10%. So that's telling me right now that we have 93, maybe we can get this so you can see it. This is telling me that we have 93% of the battery left. But that number, 15.55, is telling me at the current state of, we're putting 0.89 amps into the battery, which is very, very little, really not necessary, but it's trying. It'll take 15 hours to bring that battery up to 100% at this low current. Now, as the sun comes up, it's very early in the morning. As the sun comes up, that amperage is going to go up. Not a lot, because the batteries aren't demanding it. At 93%, they're floating. They don't need a lot of current right now. So the solar charge controller that I'm going to show you in a minute is really monitoring all of this and making sure the batteries are getting exactly what they need, and that I'm going to have exactly enough current that I need for my day-to-day use of the trailer. So this is the Renogy 500, it's called, solar charge controller. Interestingly, that Trimetrics unit is about, I think it's nearly $300 now. This unit was $79. And it gives us more useful information than the Trimetrics did. So the cost of all this stuff is dramatically coming down. So let's go look out here at what else we did. This is the new solar charge controller. This is an MPPT. And MPPT really analyzes what's coming in off the solar panels much better than a pulse width modulated system. So you're just going to get much better charging of your batteries, basically. This unit has its own also monitor that monitors the solar coming into the MPP controller. A few other things I did was I was using fuses to control the solar panels. And I've been reading up on the internet that that's probably not a good idea. You should use a DC circuit breaker. Not too easy to find. There are not a lot of them around. But now I have a DC circuit breaker so I can shut the solar panels on or off if I need to maintain them or do something with them. You can see back there, that's the shunt that's working with that Renogy 500 panel that's inside the trailer. And once again, I removed those Chinese type circuit breakers and I replaced them all with high quality, high current fuses. So it's just a lot safer. That back there is the inverter that takes 12 volts and converts it to 120 volts. So I can run my Keurig coffee maker, and I can run my toaster and all kinds of other things that need 120 volts when I'm just on batteries. So that's basically it. That's what we've done. That was the project in the last week or so. And I'm really happy with the way it all turned out. It's really worked out really, really well for the trailer. Anyways, quick video on what's going on in my life. Thanks for watching.